My husband and his mother threw me out while I was recovering from surgery. You're a burden, and this house is ours now. My mill cackled. They changed the locks, but they had no idea the house wasn't the only thing my grandfather left me in his will. The worst betrayals always come on ordinary days. Mine happened on a Thursday afternoon in October, exactly 6 days after my hysterectomy when I finally got to come home from the hospital. My name is Nicole, and I thought I knew what pain was after the surgery. I was wrong. The Uber dropped me off at the end of our long driveway. I noticed Wesley's car wasn't there, but his mother, Caroline's silver Mercedes, was parked in my usual spot. Strange. She hadn't visited once during my hospital stay, claiming she had a cold she didn't want to risk spreading. Walking hurt. Every step sent lightning bolts through my abdomen. But I managed to drag my overnight bag up the path, already dreaming of my bed and the pain meds I'd left on the nightstand. That's when I saw them. Wesley and Caroline stood on the porch like sentries. Neither moved to help me with my bag. "What's going on?" I asked, fumbling for my house key. "Why are you both just standing there?" Caroline's thin lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "That key won't work anymore." I tried it anyway. She was right. "Wesley." I turned to my husband of 10 years. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "What's happening?" "You need to leave," Caroline said, her voice sharp as broken glass. "This house belongs to us now." The world tilted sideways. "What are you talking about? This is my grandfather's house. He left it to me in his will." "Wrong." Caroline stepped forward. "Wesley had the locks changed yesterday. We've packed your things." She gestured to a pile of garbage bags by the steps. "My clothes, my books, my life." "Wesley, please," I whispered. "I just had surgery. I can barely stand." He finally looked at me, but his eyes were empty. "You should have thought about that before becoming such a burden." A burden. The word felt like acid in my mouth. "I had cancer, Wesley. They had to remove my—" "Oh, spare us the dramatics," Caroline interrupted. "You've always been weak, always playing the victim. My son deserves better than spending his life taking care of an invalid." I gripped the porch railing as another wave of pain hit. "This is illegal. You can't just—" "We can and we have." Caroline picked up my overnight bag and threw it down the steps. It burst open, spilling my medications across the lawn. "This house was never yours. It's ours now. Be grateful we let you live here this long." "Mom, maybe we should," Wesley started. But Caroline cut him off with a look. "Don't go soft now. We discussed this." She turned back to me. "Leave or I'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing." My legs gave out. I sank onto the steps, clutching my stomach. Where am I supposed to go? "Not our problem." Caroline's heels clicked on the porch as she walked to the door. "Come along, Wesley." He hesitated for just a moment, then followed his mother inside. The door locked with a final click. I sat there, surrounded by my scattered belongings, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend, Annabelle. "How's the homecoming going?" My fingers shook as I typed. "They changed the locks. They threw me out. I need help." "Don't move. I'm coming." I looked up at my grandfather's house, my house, where I'd lived for the past 5 years, where I'd nursed him through his final illness, where I'd married Wesley in the backyard under the old oak tree. Now I was sitting on the steps like a stranger with fresh surgical stitches pulling at my skin and my heart breaking into pieces too small to ever find again. Annabelle's car screeched into the driveway 15 minutes later. She took one look at me and the scattered bags and started swearing. "We're calling the police," she said, helping me up. "No," I grabbed her arm. "Not yet. I need to think." She gathered my medications while I leaned against her car, watching the upstairs lights come on. I could see Caroline's shadow moving behind the curtains of my bedroom window. "You're coming home with me," Annabelle said firmly. "We'll figure this out." As we drove away, I caught one last glimpse of Wesley watching from an upstairs window. For a moment, our eyes met through the glass. Then he turned away, just like he'd turned away from 10 years of marriage, from his vows, from everything we'd built together. I didn't know it then, but that moment of weakness would be his biggest mistake. Because sometimes when you throw someone away, you forget to check what they might come back with. And I was about to come back with everything. "You need to eat something," Annabelle said, sliding a bowl of soup across her kitchen counter. 3 days had passed since I'd been thrown out of my home, and I'd barely touched food. "I can't." I pushed the bowl away. Every time I try, I just see Caroline's face throwing my medications down the steps. "Then eat because you need strength to destroy them." Annabelle pushed the bowl back. "Your stitches won't heal if you don't eat." She was right, as usual. I forced down a spoonful while she typed furiously on her laptop. "Something's not adding up," she muttered. "Harold, your grandfather, was too smart to leave loopholes in his will. He was one of the sharpest corporate lawyers I've ever met. Wesley said they found a way around it." My voice cracked. I should have seen this coming. All those late nights he spent with his mother claiming they were organizing family papers. Annabelle's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and frowned. "Your friend Maria from next door just texted. Apparently Wesley's been throwing out your grandfather's old furniture, replacing everything with new stuff Caroline picked out." The soup turned to acid in my stomach. The antique desk, the one Grandpa used to write all his contracts on. "I'm sorry, Nicole." I grabbed my phone, scrolling through old emails frantically. Grandpa sent me a copy of the will. He made me promise to keep it safe. Said I might need it someday. When? 2 weeks before he died. I found the email, hands shaking. "Here." Annabelle moved around the counter to read over my shoulder. The will was exactly as I remembered. The house left to me, clear as day. "Wait." Annabelle pointed at an attachment I'd never opened. "What's that?" I clicked it. A separate document appeared titled simply, "In the case of betrayal." "Oh my God," Annabelle whispered as we read. "Nicole, do you know what this means?" I did. My grandfather hadn't just left me the house. He'd left me everything, including controlling shares in Wolf and Cabot, the parent company of Wesley's employer. But the shares would only transfer to me if I was wrongfully displaced during periods of illness or vulnerability. "He knew," I whispered. "Somehow, he knew they'd try something like this." "Your grandfather was a genius." Annabelle was already reaching for her phone. "We need to call Genesis Long. He was your grandfather's business partner. He'll know exactly how to execute this." "Wait." I grabbed her wrist. "Not yet. I need to understand everything first." I closed my eyes, remembering all the times I'd supported Wesley's career, the networking events I'd hosted at our home, the times I'd stayed up late helping him prepare presentations, the promotion party I'd thrown him last year, while Caroline sat in the corner criticizing my choice of appetizers. "They think they've won," I said slowly. "Let them think that for a little longer." Annabelle raised an eyebrow. "What are you planning?" "I'm not sure yet, but Grandpa gave me this weapon for a reason." I straightened up, ignoring the pull of stitches. "I want to do this right." My phone buzzed. A text from Wesley. "Left some more of your things by the garage. Please collect them soon or they'll be donated." "Bastard," Annabelle muttered, reading over my shoulder. "No," I said quietly. "Let him keep digging his grave. Each box he throws out, each piece of furniture he replaces, it's all evidence of what they did." I picked up my soup spoon again, suddenly hungry. "Call Genesis, set up a meeting, but tell him to be discreet. I don't want anyone at Wolf and Company knowing about this yet." "What about the house?" Annabelle asked. "We could file for an emergency injunction." "Let them have their moment." I finished the soup, feeling stronger with each bite. They think they're dismantling my life piece by piece. But my grandfather left me the tools to dismantle theirs. Annabelle studied me for a moment, then smiled. "There's the Nicole I know. The one who graduated top of her class in business school before Wesley convinced you to focus on supporting his career instead." I forgot who I was for a while, I admitted, but they just reminded me. I opened my laptop, creating a new folder titled Renovation Receipts. "What's that for?" Annabelle asked. Every change they make to my house, every item they throw away. We're going to document it all. And when the time comes, they'll pay for every single piece they touched. Annabelle's phone buzzed again. Genesis can meet us tomorrow morning. I nodded, thinking of my grandfather's antique desk, probably sitting in some dumpster now. He'd written the codicil on that desk, planning for this very moment, protecting me even after death. Tomorrow then, I said softly. Let's see what else my grandfather left me. Genesis Long's office hadn't changed in 15 years. The same leather chairs, the same wall of law books, even the same coffee mug my grandfather had given him sat on his desk. Harold knew this day might come, Genesis said, pulling out a thick folder. He watched how Caroline manipulated Wesley over the years. Saw the changes in him. Why didn't he warn me? I asked, shifting uncomfortably. The stitches still pulled when I sat too long. Would you have believed him? Genesis raised an eyebrow. Love blinds us, Nicole. Even Harold couldn't save you from that. Annabelle leaned forward. Tell her about the shares. Genesis spread several documents across his desk. Wolf & Co. is the parent company of 17 subsidiaries, including Wesley's employer. Harold held 68% of the voting shares. Under normal circumstances, those shares would have been distributed among various family trusts. But the codicil changes everything. How so? I asked. By throwing you out during your recovery, they triggered the transfer clause. All shares now consolidate under your direct control. He smiled grimly. You own Wolf & Cohen, Nicole. Every subsidiary, every division, including the one where Wesley just made senior vice president. The room spun slightly. That's impossible. Someone would have noticed. Harold was brilliant at hiding things in plain sight. Genesis pulled out another document. The shares were held in a blind trust managed by my firm. No one at Wolf & Cobra knows about the transfer yet, not even the CEO. Mitchell Campbell, Annabelle replied. I looked him up. He's been running the company for 20 years. And he's about to answer to you, Genesis said. If that's what you want. I stood up, pacing despite the pain. Wesley's been bragging about some big promotion celebration next week. Caroline's been posting about it all over social media. Perfect timing, Annabelle said. Nothing like ruining their party. No. I shook my head. Let them have their celebration. I want to do this quietly, professionally. Genesis nodded approvingly. I can introduce you to Julio Murray. He's our corporate advisor. Handles all the major transitions. He can help you assume control without causing immediate panic. My phone buzzed. Another text from Wesley. Mom's redecorating your old office. Hope you didn't leave anything important in the desk drawers. They're still throwing out my things, I said quietly, acting like they've won. Let them, Genesis said, his voice hard. Harold used to say, the best revenge is watching your enemies celebrate their victory right before you show them it was always an illusion. What's our first step? Annabelle asked. Genesis handed me a business card. Meet with Julio tomorrow. Start the paperwork. Once that's done, we can begin transitioning you into power quietly, legally, and absolutely. I turned the card over in my hands. Wesley always said I wasn't cut out for corporate life, that I was too soft. Wesley's an idiot, Annabelle snapped. You graduated with honors while he was still trying to figure out which end of a spreadsheet was up. Your grandfather knew exactly what he was doing, Genesis added. He saw your potential long before any of us, even you. I tucked the card into my pocket and stood up. Thank you, Genesis, for everything. He walked us to the door, then paused. Nicole, Harold left one more thing for you. He handed me an envelope. He said to give it to you when the wolves show their teeth. Inside was a single photograph. My grandfather and me at my college graduation, both of us beaming. On the back, he'd written, remember who you are, not who they tried to make you become. That evening, I sat in Annabelle's guest room, watching through social media as Caroline posted photos of my grandfather's house, my house, being modernized. New furniture, new paint, new everything, erasing every trace of the life I'd built there. Let them settle in, I whispered to my grandfather's photo. Let them think they've won. They'll choke on the taste of my ghosts. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Julio, meeting confirmed for 9 a.m. bringing full documentation of your holdings. Time to take back what's yours. I turned off my phone and lay back carefully, mindful of my healing wounds. In the darkness, I could almost hear my grandfather's voice. The best revenge isn't just about winning, Nicole. It's about winning so completely that your enemies realize they never stood a chance. Tomorrow I would start proving him right. Wesley and Caroline thought they'd stripped me of everything. My home, my dignity, my power. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. There's something else you need to see, Julio said, sliding a folder across his desk. We'd spent the morning reviewing company structures and shareholding patterns, but his expression told me this was different. I opened the folder and froze. Inside were surveillance photos of Wesley leaving expensive restaurants, holding hands with a young woman I didn't recognize. Her name is Mia, Julio explained gently. She's the daughter of our VP of Operations. The photos were taken over the past 3 months, while you were undergoing treatment. My hands didn't shake. I was oddly calm as I flipped through the images. Wesley and Mia at a hotel, at a jewelry store, having lunch in the company courtyard. Why show me these? I asked. Because she's been promoted twice in 6 months despite having no qualifications. And because Wesley's recent promotion recommendation came directly from her father. Annabelle, who'd been quiet until now, swore under her breath. That's why he was so eager to throw you out. He's been planning his exit strategy. There's more, Julio said. The company paid for a luxury apartment 3 months ago. Officially, it's listed as executive housing. Unofficially. He pulled out more photos. Wesley entering with luggage. Mia leaving early in the morning. I closed the folder. So, while I was having surgery, my husband was setting up his love nest with company money. Money that's now technically yours, Julio reminded me, along with the authority to audit every expense, every promotion, every decision. I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the Wolf and CR campus spread out below. Somewhere down there, Wesley was probably sitting in his new office, planning his celebration party. How do you want to handle this? Julio asked. Professionally, I said, turning back. We do this by the book. I want a full audit of every promotion and expense account for the past year. I want the board to see exactly how their money has been spent. The board meets next week, Julio said. We can have everything ready by then. Good. I sat back down. And the apartment lease is up for renewal next month. Cancel it, but not yet. Let them enjoy their little paradise a bit longer. Annabelle touched my arm. Are you okay? I'm better than okay. I pulled out my laptop. I'm finally seeing clearly. Show me the company organization chart, Julio. He pulled it up on a screen. Wesley's division is here, under operations. His new promotion would put him here. He pointed to a senior position. And Mia, currently in marketing, but there's a proposal to move her to operations directly under Wesley. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course there is. My phone buzzed. Another Instagram notification. Caroline was posting more photos of my renovated house, bragging about her designer touches. The promotion celebration is Friday, I said. Will everything be ready for the board meeting on Monday? Julio nodded. Ready to be introduced as their new boss? Not yet. First, I want them to meet their new auditor. I turned to Annabelle. Can you get me copies of every expense report, every lease agreement? Already on it, she said, typing rapidly. One more thing, Julio added hesitantly. Mia's been vocal on social media about her relationship with Wesley. He showed me her Instagram. My stomach turned as I scrolled through intimate photos, expensive gifts, romantic getaways, all time-stamped during my hospital stays. She doesn't know about me, does she? I asked quietly. Based on her posts, Wesley told her you left him, that you abandoned the marriage. I closed Instagram and opened my email. Draft a memo, Julio. Effective immediately, all executive expenses over $1,000 require board approval. All promotions are frozen pending review. That'll get their attention, he said, smiling slightly. Good. I stood up, ignoring the twinge of pain from my healing incision. Let them wonder. Let them worry. By the time they figure it out, it'll be too late. As we left Julio's office, Annabelle squeezed my hand. You're handling this amazingly well. What choice do I have? I watched employees hurrying across the campus below. They thought they could throw me away and start fresh, but they forgot whose name is really on their paychecks. My phone buzzed again. A message from Wesley. Hope you're settled somewhere. We're having a small celebration Friday. Your things from the study will be on the curb by then. I showed Annabelle the message. She started to speak, but I shook my head. Let him celebrate, I said quietly. Let them all celebrate. They think they're at the top of their game. I smiled, thinking of the board meeting to come. They don't realize they're standing on a trapdoor. The courier arrived at my house, Wesley and Caroline's stolen house, at exactly 9 a.m. on Friday morning. I watched from my parked car across the street as he rang the doorbell. Caroline answered, already dressed for Wesley's promotion celebration in an expensive new suit. I could see her expression change as she signed for the envelope, then watched her rush inside. How long do you think it'll take? Annabelle asked from the driver's seat. 3, 2, 1. Right on cue, Wesley's car screeched into the driveway. He must have broken every speed limit getting here from the office. He ran inside, still clutching his briefcase. My phone started ringing. Wesley's name flashed on the screen. Now? Annabelle asked. Not yet. I declined the call. Let them stew. We waited. 10 minutes later, Caroline stormed out, waving papers in the air and screaming into her phone. Even from across the street, I could hear fragments. Impossible. Lawyer. Can't do this. Another call from Wesley. Then another. Then texts started flooding in. What did you do? This is impossible. Please call me. We need to talk. Answer your phone now. Answer? Annabelle asked again. I nodded, answering the next call. Hello, Wesley. What the hell is this? His voice shook with rage. Immediate termination. Eviction notice. You can't do this. Actually, I can. Check the letterhead on your termination notice. See who owns Wolf and Cobra now. Silence. Then, this is a mistake. Some kind of fraud. No mistake. Remember Grandpa's antique desk? The one you threw out? He wrote this contingency plan on it. Poetic, isn't it? Caroline's voice screeched in the background. Wesley must have put me on speaker. You little snake, she hissed. After everything we've done for you. Everything you've done for me? I laughed. Like throwing me out after surgery or helping your son set up his love nest with Mia while I was having cancer treatment. More silence, then Wesley, quieter. You know about Mia? I know everything. The apartment, the promotions, the expenses. Did you really think nobody would notice? We can talk about this, he said quickly. Come home. We'll work something out. Home? My voice hardened. You mean my house? The one you changed the locks on? Check your eviction notice, Wesley. You have 48 hours to vacate the premises. You can't. I can. And I am. Oh, and Caroline, those designer touches you've been bragging about online? Document everything you've spent. You'll be reimbursing me for all unauthorized changes to my property. Caroline started screaming again. I hung up. That felt good, Annabelle said, grinning. We watched as Wesley and Caroline argued on the front porch. Other neighbors were coming out now, drawn by the commotion. My phone buzzed with a text from Julio. Security just escorted him out of the building. His access cards are deactivated. Then another message. This one from Mia. Is it true? Did you really get him fired? I showed Annabelle the message. Should I respond? Not yet. Let her sweat, too. We watched as Wesley stormed back to his car. The company car he'd have to return by Monday. Caroline was still on the phone, probably with her lawyer. Want to deliver the final blow? Annabelle asked. I nodded and typed a quick message to my real estate attorney. Minutes later, a police car pulled up. They're here to supervise the eviction, I explained as Wesley and Caroline gaped at the officers. Make sure there's no confusion about the deadline. My phone was exploding with notifications now. Apparently, Mia had gone on a social media rampage, posting about Wesley's firing and their relationship. Corporate gossip channels were lighting up. Ready to go home? Annabelle asked. Not yet. I watched as Wesley and Caroline frantically started moving things to their cars. I want to see them pack. Hours later, I watched them make trip after trip, loading their vehicles with designer clothes and Caroline's precious decorations. The police officers stood by, ensuring everything stayed civil. Finally, as the sun was setting, Wesley looked directly at my car. He knew I was there. He walked halfway across the street, stopped. You were right, I called out the window. This house was never yours. He opened his mouth to respond, but Caroline yanked him back. They drove away separately, leaving tire marks on my driveway. I got out of the car, walked up my front path, and used my new key to open my front door. The house smelled of Caroline's expensive perfume, but that would fade. Everything fades eventually, even betrayal. But revenge feels like coming home. The local news was having a field day. I sat in Julio's office watching the headlines scroll across his monitor. Corporate scandal, VP's daughter and married executive in illicit affair. Wealthy widow claims elder abuse after eviction. Wolf and Core shares tumble amid leadership chaos. Mia's really gone nuclear, Julio said, scrolling through her latest social media posts. She's sharing everything, receipts, text messages, photos from their trips together. How's her father handling it? I asked. The VP. He's taking a leave of absence. Apparently, he didn't know about the apartment he approved for them. My phone buzzed. Another desperate message from Wesley. Please. Mom's having panic attacks. We're staying at a motel. This isn't right. I ignored it, focusing instead on the document Julio had prepared. Is everything ready for tomorrow's shareholder meeting? Yes, but, he was interrupted by commotion in the hallway. Wesley burst in, security guards right behind him. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his eyes wild. Sir, you can't be here, one guard said, grabbing his arm. I need to speak to the board, Wesley shouted. This is all a mistake. I've worked here for 12 years. Let him stay, I said quietly. The guards looked uncertain, but stepped back. Wesley froze when he saw me. You? What are you doing here? Meeting with my corporate advisor. I gestured to Julio. Planning tomorrow's board presentation. You're what? Wesley's face went pale. You're behind the audit. I'm behind everything, Wesley, the audit, the termination, the lease cancellation on your love nest. I stood up slowly. Did you really think my grandfather would leave me defenseless? You don't understand. He pleaded. Mia's destroying my reputation. Caroline's had to move in with her cousin in Jersey. She's talking about suing you for. For what? Taking back what's legally mine? We had a life together, he shouted. 10 years of marriage. Which you threw away for a company car and a side chick named Mia. I nodded to the guards. Escort him out. If he returns, press charges. Nicole, please. Oh, and Wesley. I held up my phone, showing him Caroline's social media posts about my house renovations. Tell your mother I want receipts for everything she changed. My lawyer will be in touch about compensation. The guards dragged him out, his protests echoing down the hallway. That was intense, Julio said after a moment. It's not over. I checked my phone. Caroline's just posted that she's filing an elder abuse claim. Says I'm harassing a vulnerable senior citizen. Does she forget we have security footage of her throwing your medications down the steps? Apparently. I forwarded the footage to my lawyer. Let her try. Every false claim just makes her look worse. My phone buzzed again, this time from Mia. I didn't know about your surgery or that he threw you out. I swear. She's been messaging me all day, I told Julio, trying to distance herself from Wesley now that he's toxic. Smart girl, he said dryly. Unlike her father, who approved over $200,000 in business expenses for their trips together. I stood up, gathering my files. Make sure the board sees those expense reports tomorrow. Every receipt, every charge. They're already asking questions. Mitchell Campbell's been in closed-door meetings all day. Good. Let them squirm. I checked my watch. I need to meet Annabelle at the house. We're documenting all the changes Caroline made. Need security? No, but keep an eye on Wesley. Men like him get dangerous when they're cornered. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a news alert. Breaking, former executive arrested after altercation at Wolf & Company. The article showed Wesley being let out in handcuffs after trying to force his way into the executive floor. Well, Julio said, reading over my shoulder, that saves us some trouble. I gathered my things, thinking about Wesley in a jail cell, Caroline in her cousin's spare room, and Mia watching her career implode in real time. Tomorrow's board meeting should be interesting, I said. Julio smiled. Ready to meet your new employees? Almost. I looked out his window at the sprawling corporate campus below. First, let's make sure they understand exactly why their former golden boy is in handcuffs. My phone buzzed one last time. Caroline again. You've ruined everything. Are you happy now? I typed back a single response. No, Caroline, but I'm just getting started. Then I turned off my phone and headed home to my grandfather's house, where the ghosts of betrayal were finally beginning to fade. The boardroom fell silent as I walked in. 12 pairs of eyes followed me to the head of the table, where Mitchell Campbell, CEO of Wolf & Company for 20 years, sat looking like he'd swallowed something sour. Ladies and gentlemen, Julio announced, I'd like to introduce Nicole Taylor, majority shareholder of Wolf & Kung, and your new chief executive officer. Mitchell stood up, forcing a smile. Now wait just a minute. The board hasn't voted. Check your bylaws, I interrupted, sliding copies of my grandfather's documents across the table. As controlling shareholder, I don't need a vote, but feel free to review the paperwork while I address recent concerns. Annabelle, sitting in the corner with her laptop, began projecting images onto the screen behind me. First image, please, I said calmly. Here we have $200,000 in unauthorized business expenses approved by our VP of Operations. Hotel rooms, jewelry, first-class flights, all for his daughter and her married boyfriend, my soon-to-be ex-husband. Murmurs rippled through the room. Next slide. The security footage appeared showing Wesley's assault on the security guards yesterday. This is how our former senior executive handles professional disagreements. This is a personal matter, Mitchell protested. Is it? I pulled out more documents. Because our audit shows systematic promotion of unqualified individuals, misuse of company resources, and approval of excessive expenses. All under your watch, Mitchell. His face reddened. You can't just walk in here and... I already have. I sat down in his chair. You can clean out your office now, or security can do it for you. Your choice. He stood up, knocking over his water glass. This is ridiculous. I've run this company for... Into the ground, I suggested. Our stock has dropped 15% since the scandal broke. Would you like to explain to the board why you approved an executive apartment for a married employee's affair? Mitchell stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Now then, I turned to the remaining board members. Let's discuss the future of Wolf & Company. My phone buzzed. A text from the police. Wesley had been released on bail with orders to stay away from company property. Ms. Taylor. One board member spoke up. What about the elder abuse allegations? Caroline Lee has been quite vocal. Play the footage, I told Annabelle. The security video from my porch began playing, showing Caroline throwing my medical supplies down the steps while I struggled with surgical stitches. Any other questions about Caroline's credibility? Silence. Good, because I'm calling a press conference in 1 hour. We're going to address everything: the corruption, the misuse of funds, the nepotism, complete transparency. That could damage the company's reputation, someone protested. No, I corrected. Hiding it would damage our reputation. Addressing it head-on shows we're serious about corporate reform. My phone buzzed again. Mia, asking to meet. I ignored it. 1 hour, I repeated, standing up. I suggest you all prepare statements supporting the leadership transition unless anyone else wants to explain their role in Wesley's creative accounting. They filed out quickly, leaving me alone with Annabelle and Julio. That went well, Annabelle said, grinning. It's not over. I checked my phone again. Dozens of missed calls from Wesley, Caroline, and now Mitchell. The press conference is the real test. An hour later, I stood before a sea of reporters. Camera flashes popped as I approached the podium. Good morning, I began. My name is Nicole Taylor. Some of you may know me as the woman recently thrown out of her home while recovering from cancer surgery. Others may know me as the wife Wesley Lee betrayed while misusing corporate funds. Today I'm here as the new CEO of Wolf & Co., and I have something to say about power, corruption, and consequences. The cameras went crazy. 2 weeks ago, I was considered disposable. Today, I control one of the largest corporations in this city. The difference isn't just about money or shares. It's about integrity, about doing what's right. Movement at the back of the room caught my eye. Wesley had slipped in, watching with a strange expression. To those who abuse power, whether corporate or personal, your time is up. To those who enable such abuse through silence or compliance, your time is up, too. Wolf & Co. is entering a new era of transparency and accountability. Wesley turned and walked out. I continued speaking, outlining our new corporate governance policies, but part of me wondered if he finally understood what he'd lost. After the press conference, Julio handed me a note from my grandfather's old office. Inside was a simple message. The measure of power isn't in how you get it, but in how you use it. Make it count. I folded the note carefully and put it in my pocket. The reporters were still shouting questions, the photographers still snapping pictures, but for the first time since this all began, I felt the weight of victory and wondered if it was heavier than I'd expected. The autumn wind scattered leaves across my grandfather's grave as I placed fresh flowers beside his headstone. Next to them, I set down a copy of today's newspaper, its headline bold against the marble. Wolf & Co. soars under new leadership. I did it, Grandpa, I said quietly. Though maybe not exactly how you planned. He'd be proud, a voice said behind me. I turned to see Genesis approaching with his own flowers. Harold always said you had steel in your spine. You just needed to find it. I found more than that. I touched the headstone gently. I found myself again. My phone buzzed. A text from Annabelle. Mia's here. Says it's important. I showed Genesis the message. He raised an eyebrow. Going to see her? Yes, I said. She's carrying my husband's child. That makes it my business. At the coffee shop, Mia looked different from her social media photos. Smaller, more vulnerable. Her pregnancy was just beginning to show. Thank you for meeting me, she said as I sat down. I know you probably hate me. I don't hate you. I studied her face. I don't feel anything about you at all. She flinched. I deserve that. But I needed you to know Wesley lied to me, too. Said you abandoned him, that you were emotionally abusive. And you believed him? I wanted to. She looked down at her coffee. It was easier than admitting I was the other woman. Why tell me this now? Because yesterday, Wesley tried to convince me to get an abortion. Said he couldn't risk a child connecting him to the scandal. Tears filled her eyes. That's when I finally saw him clearly. I thought about my own surgery. The children I could never have. The irony tasted bitter. What do you want from me, Mia? Nothing. I just thought you should know who he really is. And that I'm sorry. Really sorry. My phone buzzed again. Caroline had posted another rant about elder abuse. Below it was a comment from Wesley, "You'll regret what you've done to my mother." I showed Mia the post. Still think he's the victim? She shook her head, gathering her things. I'm moving back home to Portland, having the baby there. Wesley doesn't get to take this from me, too. Good luck, I said, and meant it. Back at my house, my real house, restored now to how my grandfather kept it, Annabelle was waiting with takeout. Guess what came in today's mail? She handed me an envelope. Inside was my divorce papers, signed by Wesley, and something else. A letter from Caroline's cousin in Jersey. You should know Caroline's been lying about everything. She orchestrated the whole plan to take your house. Convinced Wesley you were holding him back. I can't stay silent anymore. I have proof if you need it. Going to use it? Annabelle asked. No. I set the letter aside. Let them live with what they've done. I'm done fighting their battles. Speaking of battles, Annabelle pointed to my laptop where an email from Julio waited. Board meeting tomorrow. Quarterly profits up 25%. Mitchell Campbell just announced his retirement to spend time with family. P.S. Wesley's company car was just repossessed. Thought you'd want to know. I closed the laptop, smiling. Karma really is a patient accountant. Patient and thorough, Annabelle agreed. Want to watch them tow his precious BMW? No. I walked to my grandfather's study, my study now, and sat at his restored antique desk. The one Caroline had thrown out that I'd tracked down and bought back. I want to write something. I pulled out paper and began. Dear Grandpa, you protected me even after you were gone. Gave me the weapons to fight back when I was at my weakest. But the real gift wasn't the shares or the house or even the satisfaction of justice. It was remembering who I am. They thought they were destroying me, but they were just burning away everything that wasn't really me. Everything I'd compromised to make Wesley happy. Every boundary I'd let Caroline cross. In destroying the home they took from me, I built the woman no one will ever silence again. Thank you for seeing that woman even before I could. Love. Nicole. I sealed the letter and turned to Annabelle. Want to visit the cemetery again? She smiled, understanding. To say goodbye? No. I picked up my keys. My keys to my house, my company, my life. To say hello to whatever comes next. Because that's the thing about revenge. It's not really about destroying your enemies. It's about rebuilding yourself from the ashes they left behind. And I was just getting started.